All right. So it's my then privilege to introduce our speaker today. Our speaker is Damon Alvey. Damon's coming today to give us an update about the public schools. I apologize, Damon, I've got your exact email, but you know, the general answer is that. But I like to do an introduction. Damon Alvey grew up in Northwest Iowa and is a graduate of the University of South Dakota. He began his teaching and coaching career at Brandon Valley School District. While teaching there, Damon attained his master's degree from another university in South Dakota and moved into administration at the Scotland School District, where he was for 18 years. And during his tenure as the superintendent and elementary principal there, he received his ed specialist degree from the University of Sioux Falls. And now, of course, Damon is the superintendent of the Vermillion School District for about the last 4 years, is that right? 5 years? So please welcome Damon Alvey.
And I was able to conclude my doctorate here at USD this last year as well, so finally concluded that. So thank you, Nick. It's always a pleasure to get a chance to come and talk about the school. So most of you may have already seen the annual report that was published in December, but we'll briefly go through that, and then I'll talk a little bit about our elementary school project that's been going on, or really kind of getting into full swing now. And of course, most of you probably just have questions and things that you might want to ask about the school, which is probably why you're here to listen to that rather than all these facts. But I'll start with just a few things about our school district that are written in the report. And we just blew this up so you can at least see some of the things. If you have specific questions, we'll answer them. But just some things about our district. This year, our district grew by 87 students. We were at a capacity of 1,344 students. It's probably actually a little more than that right now. And we've got just a lot of really cool things happening as a result of those new students coming in. We've of course, increased staff to help meet some of those things. But, you know, all the things that come with the district's new students, you know, we get state aid and we get, of course, federal aid and all the things that come with those increased numbers. So that's something we're pretty excited about, to see our district growing. A little while later, we'll talk and show you a graph that shows that we're at the highest number we've been since the early 2000s, which is pretty neat. Our free and reduced lunch program at the school district, we're sitting at 31% on average. Our elementaries are a little higher than that. But at this point, that data, the last 2 years, the federal government has paid for all breakfasts and lunches. Historically, the free and reduced program was designed to cover those needs, but the last 2 years, the free and reduced lunch program has been free for everybody in the district for both breakfast and lunch, which has been a great attribute for our kids and our staff. Other things about the district, students that are transported daily, that's kind of a unique number. About 300 kids get transported a day in our district. Probably a little less than half of them are outside the community. Most of our busing actually happens within the districts, in between the buildings. That's something that obviously, as we continue to see the district grow and we're getting housing developments on both sides of town and things and new apartments, that changes our route every year about what that looks like. But again, something that's kind of nice for us to be able to talk about. The next thing, we look at our certified staff in this section here. You know, we've grown a little bit with our certified instructors. We will continue to grow with that. This year we added 5 positions under federal ESSER dollars from the federal government in relation to COVID. So we have, for a total of 3 years, 5 extra people that have been paid for completely out of federal dollars, which is, again, something we're thankful for. Something that's happening a lot in South Dakota right now with the legislative session with the teacher pay. The governor has proposed a 6% increase to teacher education and teacher pay. Right now, our base is at $41,400, which is very comparable, but there's a few above us and a few below us in the region. So we're all fighting for the same staff members, so we're trying to work on ways to continue to improve that. A little further down, it talks about our teachers with advanced degrees. Over half of the teachers in our district have advanced degrees of some kind, which is a really remarkable, I guess, statistic, because those people put a lot of work into their profession, and they're very proud of the things that they're doing, but we certainly think that makes them better, more well-rounded educators. So we're glad that they're pursuing those things on the outside of our district's walls. The big black section there talks a little bit about the things that are going on in each of our buildings. It's just a small representation of the types of things that are going on in the district, whether it's curriculum-wise or activities-wise. But for a school district our size, we have a very robust extracurricular program. Kids in our district can find things from CTE hands-on classes to the most advanced AP coursework, dual credit coursework, of course, through USD. They can have great, robust fine arts programs through oral interp or drama or band vocal opportunities. And of course, they get chances at writing and debating and things like that as well. As well as the volunteer opportunities in the district, which the Rotary plays a large part in with our volunteer day in the fall, where we send out 400 high school kids into the community to do volunteer hours. And we get a big list of things from folks that, things that they want. We've had kids that were painting houses and trimming bushes and mowing lawns, to doing things at the university, to reading to kids at elementaries, going to the nursing home, if allowed to go in and visit with residents. So we feel like that our extracurriculars and our curriculum is really what makes our district special, because it gives us an opportunity to produce well-rounded kids and gives them an opportunity to explore a lot while in high school or even elementary, middle school, before going on into their grown-up world and choosing some career. Other things that are kind of interest here, just basically, of course, last year, I'm just kind of looking at my notes here. Up here, of course, this little section talked about the fact that with the support of folks like you, the district was able to pass a $26 million bond for a new elementary school. We had a 75% approval rating on that, which is really very, very good. And of course, we attribute that to our folks that went out and helped promote the project, but really by the people in our community that see the value in the buildings, they see the value in the education process here in Vermillion, and they came out and supported us, which we greatly appreciate. Finally, at the bottom here, it talks just a little bit about our revenue. Most of you know we get most of our revenue based on state aid and your taxes help to do that. We've got a graph on the next page that will show that. But really, we've got about a $15 million, slightly over $15 million budget each year that our school board helps to create and manage, and taxes to us to make sure that we administer and hire the best people we can with those dollars, provide the best opportunities through our curriculum and activities, and of course, maintain our facilities. So all of those things are really, really important to the district. The next page that you would see in our annual report talks a lot about just the things that are going on in the district. Our mission statement, of course, is very basic. It's just to connect and inspire and to achieve with our kids. And just some things that we do to try to do that is, we want to make sure that we're providing the opportunities I spoke of earlier to our kids, but also to our staff. Our board is committed to putting robust dollars into professional development for our teachers, because like many of you, they have continuing credits that they have to do for their licensure and things. But more importantly, the needs of our kids have changed over time, and so they continually analyze our students and determine what kind of things in our budget would help create the best atmosphere for those kids. And things like, we're working a lot with mental health these last few years, like you hear most organizations dealing with mental health needs. The kids that are coming to us that might have challenges, we need to find ways to address that. And so our board has hired professionals to come in and help us to determine that. Abuse, neglect, learning styles are all kinds of things that our teachers are constantly being reviewed on, just to try to meet the needs of our clientele coming in. This section here, of course, again, just reviews the number of kids in our buildings. You'll notice we're right about 100 all the way K through 12, but we service early childhood kids. We've got early childhood preschool services in our building, where we have some 4-year-olds roaming around in our buildings. We also partner with Head Start that will go all the way down to 2-year-olds in our buildings. And so then you'll notice that our 2 smallest classes happen to be our juniors and seniors, which helps us to hope that we're going to have even a larger school next year by a few students because the 2 graduating classes will be smaller than what we have coming in the next 2 years, which is, again, exciting for us for a lot of reasons. The big red section just does a lot of reviewing of things that we talk about. Last year's senior class, 84% of them went on to post-secondary things. They had over $1 million in opportunity scholarships for different organizations that they went to. 36 of those kids were South Dakota Opportunity Scholarship winners or Opportunity Scholarship awardees. We had 37 Regent Scholars. Both of those are advanced curriculum. They're taking 4 years English, 4 years of math, 4 years of science, 3 years of social studies, fine arts, CTE classes, PE, economics. There's just a whole list of things that those kids must do and maintain a certain grade point average to be qualified for that. And they, as usual, every year we have a number of students that do that, which is a testament to them and their families. The rest of the things here in black just talk about a lot of our staff. You can notice, with all of our substitutes and bus drivers and lunch folks and custodians, we're a decently sized organization spread out amongst 4 campuses to meet the needs of the kids in our district. And then finally, just some graphical information. This doesn't go back all the way to the early 2000s, but we were in the early 2000s before we had met that number of over 1,340 or 50 kids, and now we're up there again. We don't really know why that happened. We do know that we did, when we were remote during COVID, we had a number of students that chose homeschool because they didn't, for their needs, they felt it was best to stay home and get their education at home. So we knew about 40 of those kids would return to us and come into our doors again, which they did. But where the other 40-some came from is just kind of a mystery because their parents have come. Some of them are university related. Some have come with moms and dads to the hospital or someplace else. But some of them just showed up because they have relatives here in Vermillion, and maybe they're getting closer to family and things. But we hope that continues because it just, again, means some growth for our district, which we're excited about. And of course, this graph here talks a little bit about our expenditures, and this one talks about where we get our money. And of course, as you can see from that, the bulk of our money comes from your local taxes, and then the rest of it comes from either state and federal dollars and things like that. So we get a few slivers from some other resources, but this is you guys, and we so appreciate the efforts that our taxpayers do to give us resources in the district. And that, of course, shows how we spend our dollars, and how that is basically expended is about 70% of our budget, 75% of our budget's the people side of budget, which is all the employees and their benefits and insurance and the other things that the district offers. So the rest of those things go into purchase services and facilities and other needs of the district. But that's really, it's just a small snapshot of the district's annual report. So before I go on to the elementary school, I know I went through that rather quickly. Is there anything that anybody had a specific question on?
Yeah, with the 6% proposed pay raise, is that going to come from the state government, or is that going to come from local?
Oh, great question. Yes, the state government, Governor Noem's proposal was 6%. That would come from the state aid that is paid through the state government. Yep.
And do we have to explain to you where kids come from?
Well, that's for another day. Anything else on that? Yes, sir. Yes, our board is committed. We've got 2 nice things coming together this year, which doesn't always happen. We have increased enrollment, which means we get more dollars per child, and we get the 6%, if that happens to hold true, of course, the 6% that the governor and the legislature would support, hopefully. So we would have a nice combination come through for K-12 education, which doesn't always happen. Yes?
So that's about 150 students. Do they require a teacher per person? Because I saw you only had 22 teachers. But what else surprised me is your administration for that was higher than the teachers. Why is that?
Well, the administration for the district is higher than the support staff for that. I mean, for regular special education teachers. Every building has 1 or 2 designated special education teachers, and then we have 31 education paras that work with those children. Some of our students that have come, now we grew by 29 special needs students this year alone. Some of those students are one-to-one, which means that they require an adult per child. Most of our students in our special needs programs are grouped. In other words, there might be 4 little guys to 1 para or 1 teacher to work with. So when this was written, that number so it's over 14% now, because we grew by 29 kids since this was published. But so the short answer is that all those kids that come in that require different needs, it is our obligation, it is our requirement by law that we can provide the service that their students need, whether that's a one-to-one or a small group, or if they can just be pulled out for some extra assistance. So that number changes depending on the number of students per year, of course. Hope that made sense. Okay, well, I'll move on. I'll be glad to take more questions on that. This is a picture of course, the new administrative building, the wing that we put on last year. A couple years ago, you saw these pictures as I was up here talking about that. This is now kind of leading into what our discussion for our new elementary school will look like. This is just a rendering of this, but what it's supposed to represent is this brick will probably likely be a lot darker because it's going to be blended in intentionally to the middle school and attached to the west side of the middle school on Barstow Park. So we will certainly have darker brick, which makes those 2 independent facilities blend together better. But what will be a part of it will be hopefully a fair amount of steel or aluminum attributes and siding, and lots of glass features if we can get it. And so that's the hope is we'll be able to put a real modern spin on the new elementary and then blend that into the middle school by giving it a facelift as well. And this is the most recent picture we're working on of the drawing of what this building would look like. So this is the middle school now, and this is Barstow Park running around Dartmouth, and this is Carr Street on this side. So if you were facing on Dartmouth you'd be looking at the baseball diamond here, and tennis courts are back here and things like that if you're trying to visualize that. But a couple things, how this came to be is, of course, we had several public meetings to talk about the need for a facility. And we had 5 public meetings and a couple public presentations on the side of that. So probably 7 to 8 public listening sessions on the facility. And our original drawing only had 1 gymnasium. It did not have a second gymnasium. And early in our discussion, people said, if you're going to build this, make sure we have enough gym space for people to use this. We already use our facilities for Parks and Rec during the summer, during the school year. The high school is getting overused in its auxiliary gym currently, and it's hard for people to get in there to use it for youth activities. So please put on a second gym if you can. So it morphed into being able to have a second gymnasium, which will also serve as a commons area for eating for kids. So the kids would actually eat in here a couple periods a day, but it would be open up for gymnasium or gym classes or weekend tournaments or whatever, as well as that. Second thing we heard was make sure that you have sized for potential growth. So we have 5 sections of every classroom right now. In our current sections, we have kindergarten, first, and second grade all have 5 sections at 100 kids. We try to keep those classes about 20. And then grades 3, 4, and 5 have about 100 kids, and we allow up to 25 kids in those classes. So by having 5 sections, we're going to have 1 extra classroom of 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade built in already in case we grow. And then in every department, we have what we're calling a flex space or team teaching space. And in those team teaching spaces, it's another vacant classroom that will serve as a copy room, store room, paper room, whatever the needs of that particular wing are, conference room perhaps. It will always be there for spatial and space needs or meeting needs. But then if we have a big bubble of kids, if we have a gigantic 3rd grade come through that we need a 6th section for, we would have a built-in place in every wing for those kids. So that was something that was intentionally oversized for potential growth in the future. The other things are just regular things that you would recognize. We have, I guess here, 2 really large preschool settings, where our intention is to bring Head Start back to our building. So that will be encompassed there. This is our stream lab, which we currently serves at Jolly. We oversized and overgrew our building at Austin, weren't able to continue the stream lab because we had too many kids in the building. We had to give that up. Well, it'll be in this building where everybody to use, but USD uses this as well for their Tech 200 class. Dr. Dan Morlam teaches that on Tuesdays out of Jolly School. And then those kids come to class here, they work on our robotics and our other tech initiatives, and then all those kids go disperse, college kids I should say, disperse amongst our student bodies and practice the lessons that they learned with Dr. Morlam, which is a great thing. Our Austin kids haven't had that for 4 years now because of space issues. Now, when this is done, they'll get that opportunity to have that back, and maybe we'll even be able to grow it. I guess as I'm wrapping up here, I guess I would just talk a little bit about the timeline. You know, again, this started, I've been here for 5 years. When I came, there was talks about the buildings being needing some updates. It was decided in those times that putting millions into the old buildings was probably less desirable than going to a bond, and which, of course, you know, we did last year. The goal now is to have these drawings finalized in the next 4 weeks, go out to bid in May, and then break ground probably in July, where we'll start doing dirt work at Barstow Park. So we'll have a lot of work to do in between there. As you can imagine, when we went to visit schools, and we had a public committee of parents and teachers and administrators and school board members. We went to Harrisburg, Sioux Falls, and Brandon Valley, toured their latest schools, which helped feed the design of this building. And when we did so, of course, we got excited and put a lot of things in. And now we're putting the dollars to those things. And we're finding, well, we need to reel it in a little bit because it's growing faster than we're able to fund it. So our board has committed, we talked about it at our meeting this week, that two of the things that we can do is use capital outlay reserve dollars, which we have built up in our district. It's the same fund that we used to fund the administration center 2 years ago. We would tap into the reserves that we have built in there and put it towards the project so we don't have to cut out important things. If we find there's other important things that we want to keep, then we can also use capital outlay certificates, which the district could take on the obligation bonds for those. It does nothing to increase taxes or anything like that. These are dollars that the district would be taking on and be committing to over time. It's very common. It's what we used when we put the theater on. It's what we've used when we added a new HVAC system to the high school about 8 years ago. They do these certificates, and then we can go out to bond those things out without having to go to the taxpayers for increases. But what we're studying at this point is all the things that we want in that building, all the things that we promised people we would get are very, very expensive, as you can imagine. So we're going to work really hard to make sure we keep everything that we've been asked to keep and look for the future. But those are the things that we'll be working on over the next 4 or 5 weeks to try to do that. Then, of course, it'll go out to bid, and people will have their chance to take a look at these plans and decide if they want to bid on it. And hopefully we find some very favorable. Right now, the construction costs are up between 18 and 24% from when we bid this a year ago when we were just doing estimations. It's already gone up by almost a quarter on just supply chain issues and things like that. A couple of nice things about the building that we'll brag about a little bit is we've added a very nice art suite to the elementary. The district has committed to bringing art back at the elementary, and so we are advertising currently for that. It went away a long time ago because of budget cuts and budget needs, and in the 5 years I've been here, we've talked about it every year about getting it back and how can we do so. We found it, and we're going to bring it back. So we'll have art back for our elementary kids, which we're pretty excited about. Also, 5th grade would have the opportunity to start instrumental music in this particular plan, because over here in the middle school is a band room that the middle school uses, and our 5th graders can just walk over and use that in those off periods. So we've got some work to do with that to make that come to life, but some really exciting things for the future there. So I know that was a quick review. I appreciate the chance to talk about it. Is there any questions on the building or things like that I can share with you? Yeah.
David, is it going to be called the Vermillion Elementary School, or is it going to have some last
Great question. At this point, we've had some requests for naming rights. In other words, should we name it after a prominent Vermillion person? Should we name it after a prominent Native American in our region? But at this point, there hasn't been any commitment one way or the other. Both Austin and Jolly, we talked about we could call it, Jostin or something like that, but that didn't really seem to stick yet. So it hasn't been determined, but the board will have the final say on that, and a committee has started to talk about how that might be something we should consider. Although we do have Vermillion High School, Vermillion Middle School, would Vermillion Elementary seem reasonable, but there isn't any discussion on that yet. Kevin? Oh, great question. Yes, both of those elementary schools are going to be hopefully repurposed for something. The Boys and Girls Club, as you know, we've got those folks on the hook to be a part of our school district and our community starting in August, which is a great blessing to the community. Perhaps they will want to jump into one of those buildings and use those as their future building. Until those are done, they'll obviously be part of our building until then. But that's one desire. Maybe there's something in the community that could be repurposed, in each of those locations. Maybe they go to the ground. The board is committed that they're not going to leave them in the community to be deteriorating and causing an eyesore for the neighborhood. So at some point, the hard decision will have to be made to either sell them, give them away, reallocate them in some way, or take them back down to dirt. Well, once again, just thank you for the opportunity to talk about our district, and thank you for the support you give our school district. Without all of you and many others, we wouldn't be up to here bragging about all the things that we're proud of in the district. So thank you for your help in making that happen.